So what has happened is that we are able to read records that were irreadable, not readable before. And this has opened up another field, you see. I don't know if you know it, but a man named Velikovsky wrote a series of 6 books in the 1950 to 70 period. Velikovsky? No? Yep. And he's Worlds in Collision, Earth in Upheaval, etc. You know, he wrote Akhenaten in his time, wasn't it? Or Ramesses II in his time, Akhenaten and Oedipus. That's right, he wrote 6 anyway, Peoples of the Sea. And he realized that there was something wrong with ancient history. He said, look, 100-year glitch. They are 500 years out of place here. Well, we were paralyzed with fright because we were finding the same 500 years, you see. Then Peter James and 4 other archaeologists, they wrote a book, very detailed, in 1990, and it really got published in 1994. And they say it went through every civilization of the Mediterranean. And in every one of them, except Egypt, there's 500-600 year gaps. Rip Van Winkle land. Nobody lives there. Nobody dies there. Nobody makes anything. Nothing happens. And suddenly after 600 years, ta-da, everybody gets up and they're all in a row. See, they parade the ancient history of Greece to you. But they say, after the Trojan War, a strange, dark era descended on Greece. Nobody lived there. Nothing happened. In about 650, wow, they're all up and running again. Oh, God, you know. Of course, the Egyptian history is being used as the yardstick. There's a war, they date the country with Egypt. Then that country dates another country. There's a royal intermarriage, they date the Egyptian date, and that sets the date the other country with their list of kings and the king's daughters and so on. There's a trade agreement, and they used to do it. That, again, you got Egypt is the yardstick. And Velikovsky said, look, you're duplicating the history. Some of these dynasties are written twice. And he said, well, it's in it's Manetho. Is it? Well, we don't have the Manetho history. It doesn't exist. You got bits of it by Eusebius, 325. You got bits of it by Africanus, a couple of years after Eusebius. And you got bits of it, another one. You got scraps of it here and there. It doesn't exist. And what's happened is the 19th century pioneers running around Egypt like lunatics, they wanted to get on too quick. They needed dates. They had to fix dates. They had to get it organized. So they did. They had a conference. And Flinders Petrie and his mob said, we want the start of the first dynasty 4,400 years BC. Even 4,800. Hang on, that's a long time ago. And the other guy, I'm telling him Tor and his group from Sweden, he said, no, it's 2,000 BC. So they're having an argument over 2,000 years. So they settled for somewhere in the middle and said, okay, 3,200. It was done by negotiation. It's like buying a house, isn't it? God almighty. And every time we looked at it, we suddenly realized, Professor Sir John Morris Jones wrote a thesis in 1896. They made him Sir and shut him up, you see. And he said, the syntax and construction of the ancient Egyptian language appears to be identical with Cymric. Oh. Well, the alphabet goes all the way back, you know. So we had a bright idea. I said, what do you think, Tom? He said, well, let's give it a go. You know. So we got a book, and it had all the cartouches of all the pharaohs, you see. They used to put the pharaoh's name in all the hieroglyphs in a rope. It was called a cartouche because it was similar to the ancient powder thing that the French soldiers had. They'd bite it off, put the sword in a paper bag, see, put powder quickly in the musket. It was much faster than messing around with a powder horn. Bite the thing, powder in the musket, stick the ball in, shoot someone. And it's called a cartouche anyway. It's got this rope around it. And we said, well, let's see if we can follow what they did. Huh? Crackers, isn't it? So the first name that was ever deciphered apparently was Ptolemy, and an English engineer did it. And he got one of the letters wrong, but he did it and recognized it. That's how Champollion clicked onto him. But of course you don't mention the English guy because he was first. But what happened was this. We said, well, how will we deal with this? I said, I don't know. And he always had the answer, you know. How do we find these battle sites? You know? We'll buy some maps. It sounds stupid. We'll buy some maps. Look on the map, there's Ballybaden. Oh, there's money at Camland and Camland Valley. It is that easy. And simple thinking is what works. So we took Ptolemy and we looked at it. The first letter is a P, and it's a door. Well, that's the old Welsh word for a port, you see. Port begins with a P. Now it's only used for harbours, an entry, a harbour, you come in, port, right? So we said, that's the P. And the next one is a T, and it showed a flat-bottom cake. Now I know what that is, it's Tish and Lap, because my mother and my grandmother and another used to make them. They didn't put it in the oven, they put it in front of a fire, on a flat plate. When my steak makes it, no, when I went up there. But the point is, it's Tish and Lap. If it's Tish and the same type of cake, it's T-I, you see, so you got PT. The next is a slingshot or an olive, over the string. Or Pharaoh gives you the O. The next one's a lion lying down. Ledo Guido, a guardian, or Llaw, for a lion. You got an L. You follow it? Next one's a bit of corn, Eden, E. No? Next one's a mattress, which is matras in Welsh, gives you the mat. Huh? Mat, well, it's that way actually. And so it went on. We had Ptolemy. We could read it by taking the first word, the first letter of the Welsh word. So he said, let's do Cleopatra. Oh, because the first three they did was Ptolemy, Cleopatra, Alexander, right? Well, the first letter of Alexander, it's a right angle, see? Okay? Yeah? Oh, is it? Hang on. I'm getting this mixed up. Oh, it's a big, I'm talking about Cleopatra. Cleopatra, the first is a right angle. Oh, a right angle was used in building purposes to get a wall upright. They had right angles and they used to keep a wall straight. It's Congal, gives you a C. Yeah? Next one's a lion lying down, we know that's an L-E. Next one's a slingshot, Cleo. Next one's the door, Port P, right? Next one's a big bird, Ada, Adere. Next one's an open mouth, Roch, Tuata. And we could read Cleopatra. And so we went on with Alexander, Autocrator. And we said, hey, we can read these things, you know? This is great. So we then plunged into the whole of the pharaohs, translating their names. And some of them then are different to what is thought today. They're not quite the same at all in our book. That's what we think. Well, there's only a short step then to say, well, we get some big pictures of these stelae from ancient Egypt. We'll see if we can read them. We believe we can, and we do, and it's done very swiftly and easily. Now, the method they used with Champollion is this. He believed that Coptic was the base language. And then he says, there are less than 100 Coptic words still existing in ancient Egyptian. Huh? Then he said, well, if it's not in Coptic, we will seek for it in Hebrew. Huh? If it's not in Hebrew, we'll look for the word in Aramaic. And if it's not in Coptic, Hebrew, or Aramaic, we'll guess. And that's why you get 3 letters sometimes, a 4-letter word. It's unbelievable. And if you look at Wallace Budge, he says, that letter's an L, and that's an L, and that's an L, and that's a G, and that's a G, and that's a G, and you got 6 or 7 different things being the same. And it's comical. And we found one thing was a hank of cotton, an owl, and an iron bolt. And that's supposed to be crocodile, you see. And animal, vegetable, and minerals, see? Crocodile. But when you take the 3 Welsh words and put them together, out comes deceitful serpent. Well, isn't that what a crocodile does? It lies in the water, you know. Deceitful serpent. So we launched into the decipherment of Egyptian then. And we thought Velikovsky was crackers, and then we said, hey, he's right. You know, God Almighty. Peter James and 4 other archaeologists wrote their book showing these 400-year gaps all through and 500-year gaps all through the histories of the ancient world. So, I don't know if you remember this one. You wouldn't before your time mostly, but the invention then came, I think, 1950, 51, anyway. Radiocarbon dating. The revolutionary tool, the holy grail of archaeology. They got radiocarbon dating. They can now get an artifact, if it's any form of living matter, trees or human flesh or whatever, they can get a carbon date on it, because the rate of loss of carbon can be fixed. Along came a Dr. Ferguson, and he said, hey, the bristletone pines up on top of the snow mountains in California live to be over 4,000 years old. They do. And so you got 4,000 tree rings, right? Maybe more. And you get a tree ring thing by drilling a hole in and pulling a whole plug out, see? And also, some of the dead trees up there can't rot because it's too cold. And some of them would therefore overlap the living trees. You follow me? And he's able to construct a carbon dating table back to 8,000 years. So Libya's got carbon dating, and Ferguson's come along with the tree rings. They had the perfect tool to now date everything, particularly Egypt. C.J. Ransom and others have been into this and written books on it, which are not popular. And the universities and the museums were throwing out over 95% of the carbon readings they were getting, radiocarbon, because they were wildly incorrect. So the wildly incorrect Egyptian model is right, and the scientific carbon dating is wrong. And then they had to solve a problem. And a lady whose name I got, she came up with a solution. Every date of 600 BC and before, we will divide by, let me get this right, we'll divide it by 80 and multiply by 100. And you know, that takes the year sort of 600 odd for Ramesses II, that was their big king, right? Back to about 1250 BC, where they want him to be. Because the carbon dating's putting him at around 600, you see. And by this adjustment, then all the others get a bit further back. They say, oh, plus or minus 50 years, get a bit of slop, get it right, plus or minus 100 years, plus or minus 150 years. And it goes on. They're doing this today. Of course, all the dates before 600, you can accept them, they're right. Now, I said, well, why don't you multiply by 37 and divide by 85? Or why don't you multiply by 95 and divide by 4? You know, what's magic about 80 and 100? Of course, they can't tell me. They're cheating.